फिल्म है द कश्मीर फाइल्स, इसने एक वर्ल्ड रिकॉर्ड बनाया है पहली बार विश्व के इतिहास में।
मैंने सोचा नहीं था कि मैं किसी चीज में वर्ल्ड रिकॉर्ड तोड़ूंगी, लेकिन मैंने तोड़ दिया है।
वर्ल्ड रिकॉर्ड बनते देखना अपने आंखों के सामने बड़ी बात है, वो भी जलेबी का वर्ल्ड रिकॉर्ड।
मेरी कंपनी कैलवे वाटर एंड सोडा ने इंटरनेशनल बुक ऑफ रिकॉर्ड में अपना नाम दर्ज कर लिया है।
वर्ल्ड रिकॉर्ड की हैट्रिक बना के अपना नाम इंटरनेशनल बुक ऑफ रिकॉर्ड्स दर्ज करवा जा रही है।
So, we will start our lecture on anatomy and physiology. So, first of all, before starting all the topics, let's know what is anatomy and what is physiology. In one word, if we try to understand anatomy and physiology, anatomy means the structure and physiology means function. Both anatomy and physiology are one of the integral and complicated, complex parts of biology. Anatomy is basically the structure, the study of the structure of the organism, of any organism, and physiology is the study of the functioning of any organism. But today we are going to discuss about human anatomy and physiology. So here we will add one word, human. So the study of the structure of the humans or the human body is known as the human anatomy, and the study of the functioning of the human body is known as the human physiology. Now, we are done with the definition of human anatomy and physiology. Now, we will discuss that why they are important to be studied together. See, anatomy and physiology both are just like lock and key. Is there any use of lock without a key? No, not at all. And is there any use of key without a lock? No. Same, anatomy and physiology. Anatomy is also just useless without physiology, and physiology is also just useless without anatomy, because just knowing the function is not enough without knowing the structure, and same with the structure. If you are just knowing the structure and not knowing its function, then it's useless. Okay. So now we are done with this topic too. Now we will discuss about the variations, the types of anatomy and physiology. First we will discuss the types of anatomy. So, first one, the gross anatomy. The study of the structure of the human body from our naked eyes. Like the study of any organ, we can study any organ with our naked eyes, or the study of basically organs like bones and muscles, we can study from our naked eyes if taken out from our body. So it will be considered as gross anatomy. And the study of the structure of the human body, which is studied with the help of a microscope, is considered as the microscopic anatomy, like the study of cells and study of tissues. The microscopic anatomy is further divided into two parts, cytology and histology. Cytology is the study of cells, and about cells we will discuss ahead. And histology is the study of tissues, which we will also discuss ahead in the next topic. Okay, now we are done with the microscopic anatomy, also we are done with the gross anatomy. Now the next topic which we will discuss is the pathological anatomy. Yes, pathological anatomy. Basically, any ingrown or outgrown disease inside the body, like a cyst or a tumor, also have its own structure. Yes, they have their own structure. Tumor also has its own structure. A cyst also can be having its own structure. Both of them are having own structure, and there are many same and such diseases which are present inside the body. They all are having their own structure. Okay. So, and the fourth one is the systemic anatomy. And it is basically the study of the systems, the organ systems which are present inside the body. The study of the organ systems, the structure of the organ systems present inside the body is the systemic anatomy. Now we are done with the variations of anatomy. Now we will discuss the variations of physiology. We are talking about human anatomy and physiology, but if we are talking about the variation of physiology, then it is very much important to discuss plant physiology. Basically, plant physiology is a variation of physiology in which we study the functioning of plants. like how photosynthesis takes place, how exchanges of gases in plants to stomata is taking place, how the production of glucose, how the production of oxygen, how the production of water is taking place, how the absorption of water and minerals is done from the roots, all these functions of plants, and there are many functions also ahead also. They will all come under the plant physiology. Second one will be the animal physiology. What are we humans? Animals only, Homo sapiens. So basically, animal physiology is the study of the functioning of any animals, and the human physiology will also come under the animal physiology, because we humans are also animals. Okay, we are done with the variations, and one more, or there are many more, from the cellular level to systemic level. All the levels of organization of an organism has its own anatomy. About levels of organization now we will discuss. Okay, so we are finished with the definition of anatomy, how they are important to be studied together, the definition and the variations too. All the topics are discussed about anatomy and physiology. Now we can discuss about the basics and some of the things which are important to be studied in anatomy and physiology. So let's dive inside it. First one, the levels of organization. As you can see here, all the levels are shown. First level is shown here. This is the cellular level. So basically, this is the atomic level, this is the atom and this is the atomic level, first level of organization. Basically, anything which occupies space and has mass is known as what? It is known as atom. And do we humans do not occupy space? Yes, we do occupy space, and we also have mass. Yes. So, our human body is also made up of atoms, and some of the prominent atoms present inside the body are carbon, oxygen, hydrogen. These are some of the prominent ones which are present inside our body. Here, second level of organization, the molecular level. Yes, several atoms together form a molecule, as we all know. And some of the prominent molecules which are present inside the body are C6H12O6, the formula for glucose is the glucose, then the carbon dioxide, CO2, then hydrogen oxide, H2O, water. Okay, these were some of the prominent and important molecules present inside our body. The next level, the macromolecular level, which is shown here, macromolecules. So basically, some of the prominent macromolecules which are found inside the body are protein, which is responsible for growth and development of our human body, carbohydrates, carbs, which are responsible for providing us energy. Also, some of the prominent macromolecules like fats are also present inside our body. These were the macromolecules, the macromolecular level we have discussed. Now, the fourth level, the organelle level. So basically, organelles are present inside the cell performing a specific function. Some of the prominent organelles like the nucleus, which is containing the DNA and RNA. Then there is the Golgi bodies like Golgi apparatus. Also there is mitochondria, which is the powerhouse of the cell membrane. There are many of the organelles present inside the cell performing a specific function. Next level is the cellular level, as shown here. Cells. Basically, several organelles are found inside the cell, and cells are the basics of life, or we can say the building block of life. Okay. Now, as we are talking about cells, and it's very important to discuss some of the prominent cells present inside the body. The sperm cell, which is the integral part of the male reproductive system, the egg cell, integral part of the female reproductive system, the white blood cell, WBCs, the red blood cells, RBCs, these are the integral parts of the cardiovascular circulatory system. Here you can see the muscular system, here you can see the nerves, the muscular cell, muscle cell, here you can see the nerve cell, integral part of the muscular system and the nervous system respectively. You root hair cell, and many of the cells are given here. Also, some of the cells like bone cells are also present there, which is an integral part of the skeletal system. Now we are done with the level of cell. We will discuss now the next level, which is here the tissue level, as you can see. So basically, several cells together form what? Several cells together form a tissue. There are basically four major types of tissues, which are shown here. First one, connective tissues. Best example of connective tissues, if we take blood, best example of connective tissues. Okay. Second one, the epithelial tissues. Epithelial tissues are basically one of the integral part of the integumentary system, which is responsible for the outer covering of the body. It covers our body from outside, which we will discuss ahead in the next topic of systems. The muscle tissue, which is the integral part of the muscular system, which is responsible for providing support, body flexation and movement to our body. Okay. The fourth and the last one, the nervous tissues, which are the integral part of the nervous system, which is further responsible for both coordination and connection and control, for providing control to the human body, and integral part of the nervous system as discussed. Okay. Now we are done with the types of tissues and the part of tissues, the level of tissues. The next level will be the organ level. Okay. So organs are basically formed from tissues, and we will discuss about organs by taking different examples of different organs. At least we will take 6 or 7 examples for organ. First example was given in the diagram itself, the stomach, which is responsible for the digestion of the human body. All the enzymes are released in the stomach, and then it is responsible for what? It is responsible for digestion inside the body, the digestion of food inside the body. Then example, we can take liver, which is responsible for the secretion of bile juice inside the body, which is further responsible for the breaking down of fats inside the body. Then we can take example of pancreas, which secretes both enzymes and hormones too. Hormones like insulin and glycogen, and insulin is responsible for regulating the blood sugar level. Also, we can take example of brain, human brain, which is responsible for control and coordination in the human body. We can take example of spinal cord, which is responsible for connecting our brain to the rest of the body. There are many organ systems. Also, we can take example of kidney, which is responsible for detoxification of blood inside the body. Many organ systems are present there, which we will discuss ahead in detail when we will talk about the organ systems. Okay. So now the organ system level. So basically, organ systems are present inside the body, and they are formed from several organs. There are 12 organ systems to be studied, but in a human body there are only 11 organ systems, because the reproductive system in both male and female varies. Okay? In male and female both male and female reproductive system varies. Okay, so we are done with the organ system definition. Now we will discuss about the types of organ systems. First one, the integumentary system, and I will give a brief detail about them also, but we will discuss in detail about them in the next topic. Okay, so the first one, the integumentary system, which is responsible for outer covering of the body. Okay, the second one is the skeletal system, which is responsible for providing support to the body, which is also responsible for protecting vital organs in the body, which is also responsible for providing movement in the body. Third one is the muscular system, which is also responsible for providing support to the body, for providing movement to the body, and providing the outer covering, or we can say providing the support to the body. Fourth one will be the nervous system, which is responsible for control and coordination in the human body. Fifth one will be the endocrine system, responsible for regulating the body functions and control and coordination in the human body. The sixth one will be the cardiovascular system, responsible for the transportation of blood, the pumping of blood in the human body. The seventh one will be the lymphatic system, which is responsible for protecting our bodies from different harmful microorganisms like bacteria, viruses, and fungi. Then the eighth one will be the digestive system, which is responsible for the digestion of the food and its absorption of nutrients in the human body. Then the ninth one will be the respiratory system, which is responsible for respiration, which is responsible for catabolic activities which are taking place in the body, which is also responsible for exchanges of gases inside the human body. The 10th one will be the urinary system, which is responsible for the detoxification of the blood inside the body, and the last one will be the human reproductive system, which is responsible for reproduction and growth inside the human body. So organ system is finished, and the last one here you can see organism, which is formed when various organs are together. Okay, where various organ systems are together, then organism is formed. So we are done with the levels of organization of the human body. Now we will discuss about different organ systems present inside the human body. With the organ systems, we will also discuss about the organs which are present inside the human body. Okay. In the first part of this systemic level, we will discuss about the system basically which is responsible for the outer covering of the human body. You can see the integumentary system. The main parts of integumentary system are nails, hairs and skin. Okay, main parts are the nails, hair and the skin, which is responsible for covering the body from outside. All the 10 organ systems are present inside the body, and the covering organ system, or we can say the organ system responsible for the outer covering, is the integumentary system, consisting of hairs, nails and skin. Okay, this was the integumentary system, and also I told that epithelial tissues are one of the very prominent tissue, or we can say only tissue found inside the integumentary system. There are some of the dead cells also in the hairs and the nails. There are dead cells also, but the active one in the skin, the epithelial tissue. Okay. Now in the second part we will discuss about the systems which are responsible for providing support, for providing protection and for providing movement to the human body, and there are only two systems in this part, which are the skeletal system and the muscular system, which we will discuss. Okay, first part, and the first system to be discussed is the skeletal system. You can see a blank diagram of the skeletal system. So here you can see the skull. This is the human skull. This is what? This is the rib cage. This is the chest bone. This is the vertebral column. This is the upper. These are the upper limbs, and these are the lower limbs. So the skull, the vertebral column and the rib cage and the chest bone together form the axial skeletal system, and the rest part means the limbs, the upper and lower limbs, form appendicular skeletal system. Yes, our skeletal system is divided into two parts, the axial skeletal system and the appendicular skeletal system. So basically there are two basic differences between both of them, which we will discuss now. The axial skeletal system is mainly responsible for providing protection to the vital organs of the human body, like our human brain, which is protected by our skull, then the spinal cord, which is protected by the vertebral column, then human lungs and the heart, which are protected by our rib cage. Okay, and the appendicular skeletal system is responsible for providing movement to the human body. This was the first difference, and the second difference is that most of the joints of the axial skeletal system are immovable. Like you can take example of joints of our rib cage or joints of our skull. They are immovable, but some of the joints are movable, like the lower jaw or the vertebral column, joints of the vertebral column, our skull, this part which is movable through our pelvic joint. So these are some of the parts which are movable, but most of the parts are not movable. Whereas in the appendicular skeletal system, most of the parts are movable, like our elbow, shoulder, all the parts are movable. See, studying about your own body, about anatomy and physiology, you can study by seeing your own body also, because it's the study of your body only. So By observing your whole body, you can study anatomy and physiology. As I explained that how joints like elbow joint and the ball and socket joint here, the shoulder joint are movable, whereas the joints like rib cage and the joints like skull are not movable. As I discussed now, by showing my own body, I told you that how these are movable and how these are not movable. Okay, now moving to the topic. From what our skeletal system is made? Our skeletal system is basically made up of four parts. Four things. First one and the most prominent one, the bones. Bones are basically made up of bone cells, and bones are very hard from outer side but very soft from the inner side. Inner side, basically the bones contain the bone marrow, which is responsible for what? The bone marrow is responsible for the production of RBCs. Yes, bone marrow is responsible for the production of red blood cells. Okay, so this was about bones. Then the ligaments. Ligaments are responsible for joining bones at joints. Then the cartilages are there. Also there are joints. Okay, movable and immovable joints. There are two types of joints: movable joints and immovable joints. Movable joints like the joints of skull, and immovable joints like pivot joint, which is present here in the skull, the hinge joint present here, okay, and the ball and socket joints are there, and there are many movable joints which are present. Okay, now this was first thing, and the second one which we will discuss is the anatomy and physiology of the skeletal system with the help of all the bones. Here you can see the diagram from the front side and from the back side too. Okay, so this is the frontal side and this is the back side. First we will start from the skull. So basically in skull there are bones like the frontal bone, the parietal bone, the occipital bone and the temporal bones. The frontal bone, this one, the parietal bone, the occipital bone and the temporal bones, they are responsible for what? They are responsible for protecting our human brain. And the fun fact is that all these four bones are named after the lobes of the brain. Okay. Now, maxilla and mandible, the upper and the lower jaw. This one, upper jaw and lower jaw. And then the nasal bone, and then the orbital cavity is also present in our face only, in our skull only. And the main function of skull, we discussed already that the main function of skull is protection of our brain. Okay, if we talk from the point of view of protection, it is protection of our brain. Okay, we are completed with cell, we are done with we are done with skull. Okay, now we will discuss about the vertebral column. Basically, vertebral column is group of small bones which are slightly movable. Yes, they are movable, but they are slightly movable joints. Okay, they are containing 26 bones together, and they are divided into parts like the cervical part, which is the upper one, then the thoracic, then the lumbar, and last bone, which is the largest one, the sacrum, the tailbone. Okay. The first bone, which is directly connected to the skull, is the atlas, and the second one is the axis. And the last bone of our vertebral column is sacrum or the tailbone. So this was a brief description about the vertebral column, and as discussed, vertebral column is responsible for the protection of what? It is responsible for the protection of our spinal cord. From the vertebral column only, our rib cage is originated from the back side. There are 12 pairs of ribs present in our body. Yes, there are 12 pairs in which 10 pairs are joined here from our chest bones. Here, as you can see, it is joined from our chest bone. Okay, but the two pairs are not joined from the sternum or from our chest bone, and they are known as the floating ribs of our rib cage. Okay, so this was about the rib cage, and as discussed that it is also responsible for the protection of vital organs like lungs and heart. Okay, now we are done with the axial skeletal system. Now we will discuss what? We will discuss the appendicular skeletal system. Okay, as you can see here, appendicular skeletal system, the clavicle region. In the clavicle region, you can see the clavicle bone. Okay, then you can see here humerus. You can see here tibia, and fibula. And as you can see, as I told, that there is hinge joint which acts like hinge, which only allows movement in one direction. Whereas here in the shoulder joint, the ball and socket joint, it allows movement in 360. All the directions means 360 degree. But pivot joint is also there, but it do not allows movement in 360 degree, but it allows movement in almost all the directions. As you can see, in all the directions it allows movement here. Okay. So next, if we talk about our palm, here are carpals, the ankle joint, then the metacarpals and the phalanges, the fingers. Okay. Now talking about the lower limb or our legs, here the femur bone. You can see here the femur, and the femur is the strongest and the largest bone of our skeletal system, because it has the load of the whole body problem. That's why it is the strongest and the largest one. Then you can see here one of the small bone which is named patella. Okay, and then you can see tibia. The tibia and fibula. Okay, now here are tarsals, metatarsals and phalanges. Okay, now we are done with the human skeletal system. Oh, skeletal system is done. Now second one of this part will be the muscular system. This is the muscular system, and some of the basic muscles of the muscular system are shown here. But first of all, we will discuss about some of the basics of the muscular system too. Muscular system is basically made up of muscles and tendons, and also there are three types of muscles: the voluntary muscles, the involuntary muscles, and the cardiac muscles. The voluntary muscles are the muscles which are in our control. The involuntary muscles are the muscles which are not in our control. They are directly controlled by our brain, and basically they are present in the organs like stomach and all that. Okay. Third one is the cardiac muscles, which is present in the heart. Okay. Here you can see the pectoral muscles, which is responsible for the movement of our forearms, and basically present in the chest, responsible for the flexation of our chest. Here you can see the biceps, and from the back side diagram you can see triceps, which is also responsible for the movement of our arms and arm extension also. Okay, and also responsible for flexation of our arms. In the trapezius, which is present here, which is responsible for what? It is responsible for the movement of our skull. Okay, now the abdominis, which is present here in the abdomen region, which is responsible for the flexation of our stomach, and also responsible for protection of the vital organs. All the muscles here are responsible for the protection, as I discussed in starting when I was giving a brief description about all the organ systems. Okay. Now the deltoids, which are present here in the arm region, they are also responsible for providing good movement to the forearms and arms. Then the quadriceps, which are present in the thighs, which are responsible for knee extension and providing a good movement to our body. So we are done with the muscular system. Now we will move on to the next topic, which is control and coordination. And in this part we will discuss about two systems, the nervous system and the endocrine system. This is the diagram of the nervous system. Prominent nerves and the prominent parts of the nervous system are shown here. You can see the median nerve, spinal cord here, the brain here. Okay, so the spinal cord is connected directly to the brain, and from the brain, as you can see, it is connected to all the nerves. Okay, so this is the median nerve, this is the thoracic nerve here, this is the radial nerve, this is the sciatic nerve, this is the sacral nerve, and this is the tibial nerve. These were some of the prominent nerves present inside the body. Okay. Then, as our skeletal system, our nervous system is also divided into two parts, CNS and PNS. Central nervous system, as you can see here, consists of brains and spinal cord, and the PNS consists of all the different nerves which I discussed. Okay, this was the division of our nervous system. Now we will discuss about the central nervous system. This is the basic diagram of central nervous system. You can see here parts of brain, the cerebrum, the cerebellum, then the brainstem, the midbrain, the pons and the medulla, and the spinal cord here. Okay. Most of the functions of balancing of the body, mainly the function of balancing here, is controlled by the cerebellum, and the cerebrum controls the functions like decision making, critical thinking, control of emotion, and the other functions like control of emotions, as I discussed, and some of the other functions too. Okay, this was the function of our brain. So now we will discuss about the lobes or the parts of the brain. As you can see here, all the parts perform their own function. Taking example of one, frontal lobe. As actually you can see here the various lobes. First I should discuss this: the frontal lobe, the parietal lobe, the occipital lobe, and the temporal lobe, and cerebellum, which I discussed, and here the spinal cord. And all of these mainly I discussed in that part, but the lobes I didn't discuss, so the anatomy of lobes were important to be discussed. And as I told, that functions of cerebrum I told. And taking example of one lobe, we can take frontal lobe only. Frontal lobe is responsible for what? It is responsible for critical thinking, and it is also responsible for decision making in our brain. Okay, so now we are done with the nervous system 2. Now we will start our next system of this part, which is the endocrine system. You can see here different glands: the hypothalamus gland, which is present inside our brain, the pineal gland, the pituitary gland, the thyroid gland, the thalamus gland, then the pancreas, then the adrenal gland, the ovary and testes. There are many glands responsible for the secretion of different hormones regulating different functions inside the body. Okay, pineal gland. Many functions are there for pineal gland. One of them is regulating our sleep. There is one phenomena also, when your brain or your eyes basically sense that light is coming directly to your eyes, and brain senses it, then the pineal gland do not release the hormones which are responsible for sleep. That is why people say that if you want to take a good and sound sleep, you should close all the lights and you don't see your phone's screen, because when the light is reflected into your eyes and brain gets the signal that light is reflecting in the eyes, the brain thinks that it is day only, and that is why the pineal gland do not secrete the sleeping hormones. Okay, the pituitary gland, known as the master of all glands, which is also responsible for the secretion of growth hormones. Then the thyroid gland, responsible for the synthesization of nutrients, and mainly for its use iodine. And when there is iodine deficiency inside our body, there is one disease which is known as goiter, in which there is a swelling in the neck region. Next one, the thymus gland, which is also an integral part of the lymphatic system, and it is responsible for secreting the hormones which are responsible for the protection from different microorganisms which are very much harmful for our body. Then the next one, the pancreas, releasing the insulin hormone, which is responsible for maintaining the blood sugar level inside our body. When both glycogen and insulin are in a balanced amount, our body is healthy. But if there is increase in the amount of glycogen which is released by the pancreas and insulin is in less amount, then there is one disease known as diabetes, in which there is increase in the blood sugar level. So that is why both the hormones like mainly the insulin and the glycogen are very much important for when they are secreted in equal amount, in equal proportion. Okay, next one, the adrenal gland, which basically secretes hormone when you are in fear. Here you can see adrenal gland, which are also known as kidney caps, because they are present on the top of the kidney, and it releases hormones which provide you instant energy when you are in fear. Then the ovaries and the testicles, which are present in males and females and males respectively, and ovary and testicles both are responsible for the secretion of sex hormones in both males and females respectively. Okay, now we are done with the endocrine system. Now we will move on to the next part of our lecture of basically the systemic level, which is transportation and defense. So in this part we will discuss mainly two topics, basically the two organ systems. The first one is the cardiovascular system or the circulatory system, also known as the circulatory system, and the second one is the lymphatic system. Okay. So this is the basic diagram of the circulatory system. Here you can see some of the prominent veins and arteries and the heart. Prominent arteries like the pulmonary arteries and the aorta, the pulmonary veins and the superior and inferior vena cava, some of the prominent veins present inside the body. Okay. Now, and the heart present in the center, which is the main part and the most important part of the cardiovascular system. Okay. It is also containing arteries and veins, which are the blood vessels, and the capillaries too. And all these three are the blood vessels. Arteries carry oxygenated blood and veins carry deoxygenated blood. There is a huge difference between them. One of them is having a very thin wall, muscle wall. One of them is having a very thick muscle wall. It is one of the difference between them. Then another difference will be that one of them carries deoxygenated blood, one of them carries oxygenated blood. Okay. Then capillaries are also there. Now we will discuss heart in detail. This is the basic diagram of human heart, as you can see here. You can see here many organs, many parts of heart, like the vena cava, the superior and inferior vena cavas. And first of all, let's talk about heart's anatomy. Here is superior vena cava, here is inferior vena cava. Okay. Now here are some of the prominent valves. Here is one muscle wall, this one, sphincter, which is responsible for dividing both the chambers. Basically, heart is divided into four chambers. Okay. Atriums are ventricles, and right atrium, right ventricle, left atrium, and left ventricle. Okay. So this is the right atrium, this is the right ventricle, this is the left atrium, and this is the left ventricle. Okay. Okay. Now these are some of the prominent veins and arteries, the pulmonary arteries and the pulmonary veins, and one of the most important artery, aorta. Okay. Now we discussed about the anatomy. Now we will discuss the physiology of human heart. Basically, see, in the whole human body, when the blood is transferred through the heart, which is oxified, which is oxygenated, then when it is deoxygenated, it again comes to where? It comes to the vena cava, the superior vena cava and the inferior vena cava. And from the vena cavas, it goes where? It goes to the right atrium. From the right atrium, by crossing this valve, it goes to the right ventricle. From the right ventricle, it goes where? It goes to the lungs. Through what? Through pulmonary arteries. Wait, through pulmonary arteries? How come? Arteries carry oxygenated blood, as I told. But why deoxygenated blood is going to arteries? Yes, there is one. There are two exceptions for arteries and veins, and one of them is here: the pulmonary arteries and the pulmonary veins. Pulmonary arteries carry deoxygenated blood, and pulmonary veins carry oxygenated blood. So, through the pulmonary arteries, the deoxygenated blood is moved to the heart for the process of oxygenation in the process of respiration in the heart, which we will discuss in detail ahead. Okay. Now, when the blood is oxygenated through the pulmonary veins, the blood arrives where? It arrives to the left atrium. From the left atrium, by crossing this valve, it goes to the left ventricle. From the left ventricle, by crossing the aortic valve, it goes where? To the aorta, which is one of the prominent artery, and from aorta it is transported to the whole body. Okay. And then the same cycle repeat until you die. Okay. So this was a brief description of human heart, basically on the cardiovascular system. Now we are done with the first part, the first organ of our basically the part of the circulation and the defense. The second organ which we will discuss is this one. This is the lymphatic system, and this is the basic anatomy of the lymphatic system, containing the lymph vessels, the lymph nodes, the lymph vessels, the lymph nodes, the bone marrow, spleen, thymus, tonsil, and one of the more part which is not mentioned here, the lymph fluids. Basically, as I told you, that this one is responsible for defense in the body. So lymph fluids, what they do, that lymph fluids are basically in all the lymph vessels, and they catch all the bacteria, all the microorganisms which are harmful for our body. And then, as I told you, that thymus is one of the gland which secretes the hormone which is very much important for the defense of our body. So with its secretion inside the whole stream of the lymph vessel, in the whole lymph vessel, the microorganisms which are harmful, it protects us from those microorganisms. So we are finished with the part of circulation and defense. Now we will move to the next part of the systemic level, which is the management part. In this part we will discuss 3 organ systems basically. First one will be the digestive system, second one will be the respiratory system, third one will be the urinary system. Okay. First of all, let's discuss this one, the digestive system, the human digestive system. Before discussing its anatomy and physiology, let's discuss about the process of nutrition. What is the process of nutrition? Basically, the nutrition process consists of 5 processes respectively. Okay. First one, ingestion. Ingestion means intake of food, which is done in our buccal cavity. Then digestion. It is the second process, and in this one there is the digestion, means the breakdown of the complex substance or the complex nutrients into the simpler ones. Okay. Third process is absorption. Absorption process is basically done in the large intestine. Then assimilation means the utilization of those nutrients, and then egestion means throwing out all the waste material from our body in the form of stool. Okay. These are the 5 basic processes which are taking place inside your digestive system. Now let's discuss about the anatomy of the digestive system. Here you can see esophagus, and before esophagus here is buccal cavity, and the buccal cavity is mainly consisting the salivary glands and your tooth. Okay, then the esophagus or the food pipe. Then here is the stomach, here is the liver, here is the pancreas, here are the intestines, the large intestine and the small intestine, the anus, the rectum, colon, all the parts are here visible. Okay, now we will discuss about the physiology. Okay, first we take in the food, we chew it and break down it. Okay, in the process of chewing the food, teeth helps us. There are basically 4 types of teeth. Okay, the incisors which are responsible for cutting down of the foods, canines responsible for tearing the foods, molars and premolars responsible for grinding the food. Okay, and there are also 2 types of teeth: milk teeth, which is grown in when we are in the period of childhood, then the permanent teeth, which are for our lifelong. It's for lifelong. Okay, and there are 36 number of permanent teeth. Okay, and 4 pairs of incisors are present in each jaw, and 2 pairs of canines are present in each jaw. And basically in herbivores, incisors are broad and bigger in size, as they have to cut down all those leaves and stems of the plants. Okay, and canines are larger and sharper in carnivores, because they have to tear the flesh. This was one of the fun facts which I gave you. Okay, now the buccal cavity. In the buccal cavity, as I told, there is salivary gland also, which secretes saliva, which is basically a digestive juice which helps in the partial digestion of what? It helps in the partial digestion of carbohydrates, and also it helps for swallowing the food easily. Okay, now when we chew down the food and break down it, then the food is in the esophagus, and from the esophagus it is moved down to the stomach with the help of a movement known as peristalsis movement. In the stomach, there are there is hydrochloric acid in a huge amount. Also, when the food is digested, it is moved to the intestine, the small intestine where it is absorbed, and then to the large intestine where the salt and water is absorbed, and then it is stored in the rectum and moved out through anus. But in this whole alimentary canal, there are two organs more which are responsible for what? For the secretion of different digestive juices and enzymes. Okay. First organ here, liver, which secretes bile juice, and with the help of bile juice, there is what? There is the digestion of fats. Yes. Then the pepsin, which is found inside the stomach, which is responsible for the digestion of protein. And when fats are converted into simpler forms, they are fatty acids. Protein, when is converted into simpler form, they are amino acids. And then carbs, when they are converted into simpler forms, they are glucose. Okay. Also, pancreas. Pancreas also secretes different types of enzymes and juices. Yes, pancreas is one of the organs which is found in our body, which secretes both hormones and enzymes, digestive juices. In the stomach, when the food is digested, then it is moved to the intestine. In intestine, the food is absorbed. How it is absorbed? So basically, there are finger-like projections found inside our intestine, which is known as villi, and they contain various blood vessels, and they only absorb the food. Then when they absorb the nutrients, and when the nutrients are absorbed and the food is almost useless, then it is moved to the large intestine, and there also salt and water is removed. Salt and water, when is removed, then it is stored in the rectum, and when the intestine gives the signal to the brain, then we throw it out in the form of stool. So this was the whole human digestive system. We have discussed the digestive system. Now, as I told, the second part in the second organ system to be discussed will be the respiratory system, which we will discuss. Yes, this is the human respiratory system. This is the nose or the nasal cavity from where we take in air which is rich in oxygen. And from the windpipe, it is transferred to the lungs. Okay, here you can see diaphragm, and here you can see the rib cage. When we take in the air, our lungs are contracted with this muscle wall and the rib cage too. And when we exhale, it is not contracted. Okay, so the first thing which is done in the respiratory system is exchanges of gases, which we discussed how gases are exchanged. We take in air rich in oxygen, and when we give it out, it is rich in CO2. The second thing, which is one of the important part of the respiratory system, is the oxygenation of the blood. As I told you that through the pulmonary arteries, the deoxygenated blood comes to the lungs, and then the oxygenated blood is transferred to the heart back through pulmonary veins. Here are the alveoli. Many parts are there, bronchi is also there, but here are the alveoli, which is basically and mainly responsible for it. These are tiny air sacs, also containing what? Blood vessels, and which are connected to pulmonary arteries and veins. When we take in air rich in oxygen, then the oxygenation of the blood is done. The alveoli, as they are air sacs, they take in oxygen and then oxify the blood, and then they are transported to the heart back. Then the carbon dioxide is left. Yes, because it was the deoxygenated blood, means the carbon dioxide is left and with different gases. So that is why the air rich in CO2 is released after the process of respiration. The third one is breaking down of cells. So basically, breaking down of cells means catabolism. Now, if we are discussing about catabolism, first of all, discussing about metabolism is very much important. Metabolism is activity of breaking down and the formation of cells. It consists of two activities, two processes: anabolism and catabolism. Anabolism means formation of cells, and catabolism means the breaking down of cells. and when the cells are broken down, then only there is the formation of energy inside the body. That is why respiratory system is very much responsible for the production of energy inside the body. Okay, so when the cell is broken down, it is catabolism, and when the cell is formed, then it is anabolism. Both of the processes are very important when they are balanced. When they are not balanced, it is not at all good for our health. Okay, so we are done with the human respiratory system 2. Now we will discuss the third one, which is the urinary system. So as I told in the starting, very brief manner, that the urinary system mainly is responsible for detoxification of blood inside our body. It is responsible for what? It is responsible for detoxification of blood inside our body. The detoxified blood comes from here, and then it is moved to the kidney. In the kidney, the blood is, all the toxins from the blood is removed, and then the toxins from the ureter is transferred to the urinary bladder, and the same thing takes place in the second kidney also, and then the detoxified blood is then transported to the heart for the pumping of the blood to the whole blood stream. Okay, this was a brief description about our urinary system. Okay, so now we are done with our urinary system. Now we will discuss our last part, means reproduction and development. So we will discuss about male and female reproductive system. This is the diagram for male and female reproductive system. This is the female reproductive system, and this is the male reproductive system. Both male and female reproductive system contain the reproductive gametes, and in the female reproductive system, the gametes are the egg cell, ovum, and in the male reproductive system, the gametes are the sperm cells. Okay, so here is the production of sperm cell taking place, and from the penis it is moved out, and then here from the ovary, the ovum or the egg cell is formed, and then one egg cell is in the fallopian tube. When the sperm comes to the fallopian tube, there are millions of sperm released. There are millions of sperm cells which are released, and only one is entered in the ovum or in the egg cell, and then the process of fertilization takes place, and then there is the formation of zygote or a tissue. Okay, and the fertilization process takes the time of 2 months, and after the formation, after the fertilization, that tissue is given to the uterus, where the maturation process of the body takes place. Okay, so this was the brief description on the human reproductive system. So as we discussed the reproductive system, now we will discuss about one of the very interesting topic, homeostasis, which is one of the topic for anatomy and physiology. See, have you ever discussed about, or have you ever studied about the process of adaptation? Yes, you might be. So basically, in the process of adaptation, the animals basically adapt themselves from outer and inner both sides to live in a particular environment. In human beings, there is one process known as homeostasis. Basically, in this process of homeostasis, if there is any change in the outer environment, then the body will react. And how it will react? It will react from inner side. It will try to change our body from inner side. In response to the outer environment, in response to the stimuli, our body will change from inner side. Some of the prominent changes which takes place in the process of homeostasis is fluctuation of the blood pressure level, means change in the BP, fluctuation of our blood sugar level or change in the blood sugar level, change in the blood oxygen level, and there are many things which change inside the body in response to the stimuli outside. In response to what? In response to the stimuli or in response to the outer environment. In response to the outer environment, our inner body changes, and this whole process is known as homeostasis. Now we are done with homeostasis.